Hey everyone, I'm Phoenix. Today we're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 0.2 A Fragmentary Passage. I do plan on reviewing the other games that are a part of 2.8, but this one's solely going to cover 0.2 AFP. This game contains some pretty spoilery things for the KH franchise, and if you're up to date, no worries, good job, but for the most part it's hard to talk about this game without spoiling something within the game, just because it's such a small game. With that in mind, remember that this game is pretty much just a test run for Kingdom Hearts 3 and is one of the first new pieces of Kingdom Hearts content in a very long time. Now, let's get started. Kingdom Hearts 0.2 A Fragmentary Passage is a game within the release of Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. In September 2015, Square Enix announced Kingdom Hearts 2.8 and slated it for a 2016 release. Tetsuya Nomura had mentioned that 0.2 would allow Kingdom Hearts fans to experience the new elements being developed for Kingdom Hearts 3 sooner rather than later. Now, for whatever reason, the game didn't end up hitting its 2016 release date, but we did get it worldwide January 24th of 2017, pretty early on into 2017. Once the game was finally released and I was able to get my hands on it, I had a lot of different opinions on the combat. Thankfully, the game was running off of the more traditional combat system, like Kingdom Hearts 1, with a very simple attack, magic, and item button on the HUD. In my personal experience, this is a great way to make a game very easy to pick up for new players. But not long after this, I had realized that the more in-depth explanation of how my attacks worked were taken away from me. In Kingdom Hearts 2, you have an area where you can look at all of your abilities that allow you to see and learn everything that you can do with your Keyblade, how your combos work, what special moves you can do with them, and taking this away from the players makes things really hard for like the semi-hardcore, the not exactly casual players to quickly pick up and understand the inner mechanics of Kingdom Hearts' combat system. If you wanted to better understand exactly how abilities worked and which ones you actually had in AFP, you would have to play previous games, learn the abilities, know what it looks like when using them, and then go back to 0.2 and repeat the process there to see what you still have. A common theme you might hear in my review is, this element is like this because it's meant for this specific game, and I'm 100% certain Kingdom Hearts 3 won't be like this. And the above situation pretty much falls exactly under that idea. I'm very certain we'll be able to see all of our abilities, be able to equip, unequip abilities, and create strategies that use the power of customizability in Kingdom Hearts 3. But in 0.2, it wasn't like that. I believe the reasoning for this was simply because this was meant to be a very small game that tells us a quick story, but allows us to enjoy the beauty of Kingdom Hearts in Unreal Engine 4. Thankfully, Aqua swinging her Keyblade does feel pretty good. They did a good job nailing a lot of the visuals and implementing them into this engine, and more on that when I go over some of the other visuals. But when Aqua swings, I feel like there are multiple paths to take for general melee combat, basic ground combo and aerial combo, Spellweaver's combos on the ground, Spellweaver's in the air. They don't always feel like super copy-paste, but if you don't mix up your own combos, then of course things will feel very rinse and repeat. And it's up to the combat design to make you want to change things up to keep things interesting. I think they do an okay job of doing that based on the enemy units in this game. They give us a handful of different Heartless and enemies to fight, and they all seem to have various weaknesses. Some are more obvious than others, like for instance there are some Fire Heartless that you would naturally think a spell like Blizzard is an obvious counter. Magic is pretty interesting in this game as you play as Aqua, somebody who was a bit more well known for their use of magic. Originally in the release patch of this game, the amount of NP that it costs to cast certain spells was a bit higher than what they are now. Initially this turned me off from the use of magic as it simply just felt like an in-between thing to use between your bread and butter Keyblade combos, rather than feeling like a part of your combo. This made for a really bad feeling early on, and it just made me not want to touch magic aside from the occasional cure when I needed it. After the patch, things felt a lot better. It felt like I was making a good choice to weave in magic during my Keyblade combos, especially with the new situation command system, allowing me to build up bigger spells such as Blizzard, something that I'm still iffy about. The idea that using one spell while building up a situation command is the difference between getting one Blizzard or getting Spellweaver, meaning that I had to make a pretty decisive choice on which I wanted. I wasn't a fan of this. Limiting me to only getting one or the other based on one key press, it felt just limiting. I know that you can build multiple situation commands for different types of magic under one situation command proc, but if I could get Blizzard and Spellweaver in the same one, I feel like magic wouldn't be such a turnoff to perform if I wanted to go for a Spellweaver command right after it. Spellweaver feels okay on its own, but there's this massive issue that I have run into across the whole game that's made even more apparent when you use Spellweaver. Aqua whiffs, like, a lot. Only her aerial strike has really solid tracking on it, and almost every other Keyblade swipe or strike has a good chance of whiffing if you're not right up in the enemy's face. This game suffers from a bit of the same things that the original Birth by Sleep did when it comes to physics. I get that Aqua's a floaty character in her animations, but some of these strikes and animations were just too floaty, giving her the impression that she's flowing through water trying to strike down Heartless. I know Aqua isn't Sora, but in a game that is made to essentially show us what KH3 will be like, Aqua just feels too slippery, and the controls are just not tight. Like I mentioned about the aerial strike being solid with tracking, almost every other strike suffers from feeling too slow. You'll whiff a shot and then get punished because you barely missed the enemy on your movement, as Aqua was just too slow. In my experience, a great combat system is one that encourages you to have specific visual or audible cues that prompt you to prepare and then react. This isn't done well for a majority of the Heartless encounters, as most of the Heartless have attacks that come out extremely fast, giving you very little time to react, and can do devastating damage, not to mention that Aqua herself has a lot of animation locks. Dodging out of your own combo takes a good amount of time, and by the time you actually get out of the animation and get into your rolling animation or aerial dodge animation, a Heartless like a Neo Shadow might have already dashed at you and taken you out. Aqua moves and reacts just too slow compared to the speed of the Heartless, and it's painfully obvious. There are tons of unjustifiable moments when you get hit. I'll go on record to say that the Phantom Aqua fight is extremely well designed. All of these issues that I stated above are not even apparent in the Aqua fight, and it just goes to show that Kingdom Hearts will absolutely work on this engine combat-wise with this team as long as they use the same design philosophy that they used for the Aqua fight. There is one major issue that needs to be fixed before this game is ever going to work, and that's platforming. I can't believe this game's platforming. Everything is clunky. Nothing is consistent. The game seems to do whatever it wants, and there are times when you'll air glide while on the ground. There are other times where you'll fall into a chunk of land, remaining in a falling animation before the collision engine properly links you to the ground. It just has... This game has way too many hazards that are constantly going on during platforming that any movement that wasn't intentional by the player can easily result in unjustifiable damage being taken. It's bad. It doesn't feel good. And I really wish this game didn't feel like this. The only two things in this whole game that really feel bad are the platforming and the floatiness. The platforming is very direct with its issues. You can see the problems instantly. But the floating issue, they're so small that it compiles into one big shitstorm over time across multiple instances of encountering the issues. I don't think I have heard anything positive about the demon fights as well. The Demon Tower was one of the first fights we saw from 0.2 back when it was teased to us, and I was psyched because it looked really cool and interesting, and the idea that they took a basic unit like Shadows and turned it into a boss was fucking neat. And the first time around it was. But then we got the same fight again. And then we got it a third time, but changed up a bit, and with really poorly telegraphed retaliations and just poor visibility on his moves. All the boss fights aside from Phantom Aqua suffered from this same issue. Don't get me wrong, this game is a lot of fun to play from a casual perspective, but pretty much only at the beginner difficulties, and only when playing casual. The second you bump things up to Proud or Critical, things don't feel anything like previous critical modes in the KH series, specifically Kingdom Hearts 2. This game suffers from really poor difficulty scaling. For comparison's sake, I'm going to talk about how difficulty scaling in Kingdom Hearts 2 FM works. On Critical mode, enemies deal more damage to you, but you deal more damage to enemies. And just from right there, it seems like you're made to be more of a glass cannon. Mess up once and you die, but succeed on your end and you're rewarded with dealing more damage than normal. It's high risk, high reward, and the better you get, the less risk there is. And to make things more interesting, the game gives you more abilities early on to help you out, and allow you to equip more abilities as you level up. This shows us that Critical basically makes the game harder, but gives you way more tools to utilize in battle. To be honest, when playing KH2FM, I didn't really notice how awesome this difference was. It wasn't until I started taking the game a bit more serious and trying my hand at data fights that I realized that the simple fact that I had so many options and ways to win a fight, but I had to get good at them and learn the fight, made nearly all of the gameplay in KH2FM extremely rewarding. Sadly, 0.2's port difficulty scaling has turned it into Kingdom Souls, a new game in the Souls franchise. It doesn't make it fun, or interesting, or rewarding, and like I said about Phantom Aqua's boss fight, she's pretty much the only fun and rewarding thing in the game. Everything else is just pretty fucking shitty. I have to give this game credit, it does look very pretty, but I feel like every good thing in this game has its downfall. While really pretty, the frame rate fluctuates pretty regularly on my PS4 Pro. I think this game needed a bit more polish in certain areas to keep that frame rate pretty constant on the Pro console, and lots of areas handle the game at 60 FPS just fine, and it looks great. But the fluctuating frame rate created some issues with timing things, as well as making things just jarring whenever the frames dropped. Another major note is crashes. I regularly keep up with the speedrunning community in Kingdom Hearts, and I've heard as well as experienced many soft-locked crashes through my time playing the game, from a chain of 2 crashes in the same spot within 10 minutes of each other, to sporadic crashes over a long playthrough. The story of 0.2 AFP is very short and quick. Aqua is roaming the realm of darkness and struggles to keep her sanity. The story does a neat job of tying together the events of Birth by Sleep all the way to the main Kingdom Hearts games that come after. The story was short and sweet, with just enough substance to keep me interested, but I can't help but get the feeling that this game was never meant to be strong on the story side as far as things outside of Aqua's internal struggles go. I feel that Nomura likes to tell the story of characters more often than the story of worlds as a whole, and I think this story was simply meant to show Aqua's progression as a Keyblade Master and her proving to herself how strong her heart really is. I love Kingdom Hearts. This franchise is awesome. I could sit here and redesign the games to make what I think is the perfect Kingdom Hearts game, but the development team seems to be taking a lot of different chances with different titles to find out exactly what they want for Kingdom Hearts 3. This is all a part of the process, and that's probably why I'm very harsh on this game. Everyone wants Kingdom Hearts 3 to be amazing, to be legendary, to have massive replayability, engaging gameplay, wondrous combat, and rewarding boss fights. And with very little good in 0.2 AFP, I hope they'll take what's good from it and capitalize on it. Kingdom Hearts 3 is closer to us than ever. We got to play Kingdom Hearts on its same engine. We got a taste of the good things that can possibly make its way to KH3. Was it worth $60? Even considering Dream Drop Distance HD and the Kai back cover movie? Absolutely not. This is certainly a purchase for Kingdom Hearts fans. I think 0.2 AFP on its own might do best at like a price point more along the lines of $15, but that's just because it's a really long demo. I could talk about 0.2 AFP for days, and how so many things didn't meet my expectations. But some rants are better saved for a different video. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like it, and share it around. If you disliked it, you know what to do. If you have your own thoughts about 0.2 AFP, I'd love to hear about them in the comment section down below. To see more of my content including playthroughs, lore videos, more reviews, hit that subscribe button. If you want notifications when a video goes live, hit the bell next to the sub button. And as always, see you next time.